Okay, well, let's see. As you know, we start a new year next week, and every time a new year rolls around, it makes me think about things that are new. And and when you look at the Bible, of course, in the Bible, there's one big section of it labeled new, the New Covenant, the New Testament. And I find that a lot of what's in the Scripture, what's in the Bible about what's new, has to do with what Jesus initiated through his death, burial, and resurrection. He initiated the new covenant. He said so at the Last Supper. He said, when he took the cup, he said, "This is my blood of the New Testament, shed for many for the remission of sins." And so he inaugurated the new covenant. And I think there's some important things to think about concerning that. Actually, I think all of the Old Testament references to things that are new, for instance, we read in the Psalms, "Sing a new song unto the Lord," and the Lord will do a new thing, we read in Isaiah. All of those things are referring to what Jesus came and initiated and inaugurated for us. And I think it's important sometimes to remind ourselves of what exactly is new about the new covenant. Anton, do you need Phil? Do you know how to start that?
Oh, yeah, it's already going.
Oh, it's going, okay. Okay, I'd like to read from Hebrews chapter 8 today and talk about that just a little bit. And as Janet so appropriately said about the candlelight service at the Methodist Church, it helped to kind of refocus. Is that kind of how you said it? Recenter or refocus on the Christmas season. I think it's good to do that from time to time, to refocus and kind of just, it's not that we necessarily need to hear something we never have heard before, but sometimes it helps to refocus and recenter ourselves on things that are vitally important. I was having a conversation last night, I don't think he'd mind me telling you this, with Jason Edgen. He's been here, talked to us before. I got to know him here at BJCC, and he calls me up every now and then. He's a student at Rhema Bible Training Center, and he was mentioning to me that with all the studying and all the listening to so many different speakers, so many different teachers, sometimes he just has to remind himself and bring himself back to what first got him going with the simplicity of just relying on Jesus. Sometimes we get distracted and drawn away from that, and it is good to recenter ourselves. So I'd like to read a little passage here from Hebrews chapter 8, and I'm going to begin reading. The whole chapter is good. Could read the whole chapter. I'm kind of tempted to do that, but I think I'll just cut to the chase here and get to the part I want to get to in verse 6. Hebrews chapter 8, verse 6. The writer of Hebrews is, in this book of Hebrews, the theme is a contrast between the old and the new. That goes throughout the whole book of Hebrews. And here is a very focused, pointed examination of that. In verse 6 it says, and it's talking about Jesus when it says he, but now hath he, meaning Jesus, obtained a more excellent ministry. More excellent means better. A more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant I made with their fathers, in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness. And their sins and iniquities I will remember no more. In that he saith, a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. Now in this little passage that I read to you, he's obviously contrasting the old covenant with the new covenant, and making the point that what we are experiencing in the new covenant, of course that's his reason for saying it, is because we are involved in and relating to God through the new covenant, and he's making the point and drawing our attention to the fact that it's better. And I see in this passage 4 important things that stand out to me. The first one is right in the very first verse that I read, verse 6. It says, speaking of Jesus, it said, "Now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he," meaning Jesus, "is the mediator of a better covenant established upon better promises." The first thing that makes the new covenant distinctive is Jesus as a mediator. Now you could say, and a person might argue, that well, in the old covenant Moses was a mediator, meaning that he went up on the mountain and got the law and brought it back. But Moses was not a mediator in the way that Jesus is a mediator. Because when Moses brought the law back, the terms of the old covenant were an agreement. A covenant, of course, is a contract or an agreement. And God was on one side, he was one party to the agreement, and the nation of Israel were the other part. They were the party to the agreement. The nation of Israel, human beings just like you and me, people, fallible human beings on one side, and a perfect, infallible God on the other side. So when I say it that way, when I frame it that way, you can see right away what the weakness is, what the flaw is. In fact, he points it out. He said if that first covenant had been faultless, why would we be talking about another one? And then he points out where the flaw is. He says, "For finding fault with them," he said, "because you continued not in my covenant." So the old covenant was a covenant between God and the people. Hear, O Israel, and they were given certain requirements and charges. If you hearken diligently to observe to do all that's written in this book of the law, and then all these blessings would follow. And if you don't hearken diligently and don't observe to do all, the emphasis on the word all, that's written in this book of the law, all these curses come upon you. So a very kind of a frightening position to be put in. They had to observe everything that was written in that covenant because it was a covenant between them and God. And he says, finding fault with them, he says, I'm going to make a new covenant. Now what's better about the new covenant is, listen to me carefully, God did not come down and make a covenant with you. He did not come and make a covenant with you personally. He came and made a covenant with Jesus as your representative. That's why Jesus said, this is the cup, this cup is my blood, not your blood, but my blood of the new covenant. And we're participants in the new covenant because we believe in or we trust in our mediator. Jesus is the mediator in the sense that he stands in our place. He's the man, God between God and man. God didn't come to you and me and say, now if you agree to do certain such and such things, then I'll bless you, but if you fail, then I'll curse you. But I think a lot of Christians, maybe, and a lot of people kind of have that general idea that because, I've talked to people before that say, well, because I've made mistakes in my life and done things wrong, well then I can't expect any of God's blessings. That's not true, because God didn't make the covenant with you based on your performance and your obedience. Just not long ago, just recently, it's amazing to me, and I kind of enjoy it in a way now that I've gotten used to it, but when you talk about grace, when you talk about the new covenant and some of these things that we talk about all the time here, sometimes not only does it rub people the wrong way, but it brings to the surface a lot of hostility in a way. And I get people that challenge me, and say, well, that can't be right. And I just recently, about 2 weeks ago, out here at BJCC, I was talking about, I forget what passage I was reading from, but this man was very upset about it. It's amazing all the, well, I shouldn't say this, I was about to say something sarcastic. But I was about to say amazing all the theologians you find out. Anyway, he challenged me and he said, no, what you're saying, that can't be right. He said, well, if what you're saying is right, then everybody's saved. And because I was talking about how Jesus took away our sins, and nothing that you do takes it away, that he took it away. He said, well, if what you're saying is true, then everybody is saved. And I said, no, that's not true. What does John 3:16 say? It says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. The world, when he says the world, that's universal. That includes everyone, doesn't it? But then it says that whosoever believeth in him. Right? That makes it specific. That's what I said to him. And so he said, yes, but what does it mean to believe? I said, well, you tell me. Well, I think what it means is you've got to be obedient, and you've got to surrender. And I said, wait a minute. It didn't say, see, those are different words. If he meant to say that, he should have said that. That whosoever is obedient and surrenders. And those words, I found the word obedience. I have never found the word surrender. If we say that in church a lot, show me where it says that. I need to do a word search, find